welcome to my video podcast. Today I'm going to be talking with Asma from, I'm going to try to say it right,
Hijabi Pop.
Hijabi Pop. Tell us about it, actually.
So, as you guys can see, I am Muslim, a Muslim woman, female, African American, and from social media, you guys can all tell that there is a rise and an increase in the imagery of Muslim women. And Hijabi Pop, the actual founder and creative director, where we're bringing the clothing brand and also combining it to serve millennial Muslim women while providing them modest, trendy fashions with a pop.
Awesome. And actually, the outfit she has on is one of her creations. Gorgeous.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about what you were doing. Like, how did you decide to start Hijabi Pop?
Hijabi Pop. So to actually just break down the word, so maybe it might make a little bit more sense. So hijab is the scarf.
Right.
Hijabi, if you add the I at the end, is the woman who wears the scarf. And then, of course, the woman who wears the scarf pops.
Boom.
Boom.
There it is.
So I can say that I've been working, regular jobs, 9 to 5, since I was about 14 years old.
Okay.
I've never had a hard time finding employment. And I would say that it came to a point about 2016. My last job, it kind of had me rethink my direction because I realized that I was doing things that I wasn't passionate about. I was actually living out someone else's concept of how they were going to be successful or how they're making millions and trillions of dollars. And then in addition to that, I had no financial freedom. I didn't have any time for myself and the things that I like to do. And in addition, it kind of felt empty for my purpose. Even though I still sold part-time, I decided that that wasn't the way that I wanted to go.
Cool. So, obviously, that was a change in how you were used to doing things. So, tell us about how that process kind of started for you in terms of, okay, now I'm deciding that this is not for me, the 9 to 5 is not for me, and now I'm ready to do something that does fit me. But how did that process work for you?
I can say I think starting anything new without certainty is scary. Like,
yes.
I don't even know if scary is the word because it's creepy. Like, it's freaks you out a little bit.
Right.
But I guess the question becomes, how passionate are you about what it is that you actually want to do? If you're passionate enough, you're going to jump and take that leap and figure the rest out later. So that's kind of how it all went. I had an idea of exactly what I wanted to do. I know that I wanted to definitely make some changes, but how I was going to sort all of it out at that particular time, I didn't have a full strategized game plan. I just knew how I felt and what was going on was not going to work. And in addition, I think my personality too, I'm more, I don't want to be micromanaged. Like I can't. And I realized my personality just didn't fit that concept. So you have to change and create an opportunity for yourself if you know who you are. Got to have an idea of what you want to do.
Right.
So, that was the push. It was just like, okay, you recognize these things about yourself. You do this already and you have a passion for it. People are aware of what you do. You are making money from it already. So what are you
waiting for?
Pretty much.
Right.
Because, everyone else is doing what they're enjoying or liking to do. And it may not even be at the capacity that they want to be at, but it's still getting done. I went through a business program last year. Actually, 2 business programs. An accelerated program called Bantunium Lab. It's actually it's an accelerating program in Atlanta, and it focuses on diversity and specifically geared into African American startup companies.
Interesting.
Yeah. The owner, her name is Sheffy Robinson. She's also my mentor, and a lot of what I worked with her along the way is how I even been able to get, even through the strides where I'm at this point.
Right.
2 things that I want to mention that she said that stuck. Like,
cool.
Because it's what got me, really moving. So one thing I noticed, there would be a moment where if I put money out and then that money flopped, I would stop. I'd be like, oh, see, I ain't got no money. I don't have money to waste. I can't put anything else out. And I would just literally stop in my tracks and it would hold me up. And we had a conversation one time and she was like, you know this is what it is, right? And I'm like, no, I didn't know that. She was like, well, you still got to pay what you got to pay for, right? And I was like, how can I do that if I don't have the money for that?
Right.
Like, I'm not rich. I can't throw money away. She said, but this is a part of the process. Like, it is what it is. Either you're going to go along with it and whatever that comes with, or you're just going to keep on stopping. And I thought about it, I'm like, that is common sense, but it's a lot because you're giving up your stuff, your resources, and there's no certainty of how it pans out. But I mean, I believe just to continue going, there's no way that you can actually fail with that. I mean, it might take some, you might waste a couple $100,
right?
Maybe even a couple $1,000.
You're still progressing.
And that was one thing I think about often when I realized that maybe it was a flop. The other thing was,
So basically, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead, because I don't remember.
Okay.
I'm still waiting.
But, okay, so while we're waiting for it to come back, because it's going to come back. I was just looking at this quote recently, and it was like, never ever, I'm paraphrasing because I'm probably going to mess up the exact words, but it's like, never ever give up, even if you may have to, change the plan.
That's what it is. She was, okay, so another thing, because I would be like, okay, I'm a perfectionist. Like, or I like to kind of go for what I feel like, in my mind, is the best I can put out.
Right.
And that would stop me from putting out photos because they're not cropped or edited right. It would stop me from attempting to sell certain things because maybe it didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to go.
Right.
But I still put time in for production, like different things like that. She was like, it's called a Frankenstein. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, it's a Frankenstein. Frankenstein still, he still functioned, even though he wasn't the best product.
Right.
And then you keep on going and going and going and going until your Frankenstein is exactly how you want it to be.
Right.
And I'm like, oh no, I'm cringing. I was cringing to that concept because it's like I'm putting something out to the world and people are going to be like, oh no, that's not.
Right.
And it's not even it's not what I want them to see. And she was like, but you have to start somewhere. You really think that you're going to be exactly where you want to be at the moment that you first start? That's not realistic. I thought about that too. Like, that's true. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you deal with Frankenstein. And I'm honestly, okay, so I graduated May 20th. May 19th of this year. Wilmington University, BS in Behavioral Science.
Congratulations.
Thank you. May 19th. Before we got on the road, I told my sister, I said, listen, snap these pictures of me and I'm going to put the clothes on myself because I didn't have a mannequin. And I was so nervous because we were in the house. The lighting was bad. And I was like, okay, let's just do it. I'm going to put them up online. And then when we're traveling up, hopefully something sells. Lord have mercy. So I posted up about 7 pictures. And it was just me, modeling, but it wasn't anything nice. That I wouldn't say it was the spectacular job.
You just got it out
there. I got it out there. Everything. So things started selling the night that I put it up. We were on the road.
Wow.
After that, I did that. I said, okay, Frankenstein works.
Right.
So even though I might be like, someone else is like, oh no, I still want it. So yeah, no, don't be scared of the Frankenstein.
Awesome. Because like, I know like, I can get caught. You can get caught in that perfectionist mode. Yeah. And because like even in school, it's like analysis paralysis. Like you just trying to make sure it's this perfect thing, and then you just don't do anything. So
you want to not doing anything.
Right. So action.
Yeah, and then eventually, again, it'll get to where you want it to be. But how can you get there without not
doing something?
You gotta step.
Right.
So I get those two things, and I've been following with it, and it those two concepts for me have really been important for It's kept me moving. Like even thinking about it, when I fall short, I'm like, okay, no, just keep on going.
Remember this, right? So that's awesome, and it's really important to have a mentor. I think sometimes people don't know the value of that, of having someone that's been there and they can tell you, okay, hey, this may be something that you can use. So talking about that path, the journey that you've been on. So when did you start?
So sewing, I've been sewing since 15, but I started sewing for myself because the stores that we had available at that time, of course, social media wasn't as prominent. Was there even a social media? I know we had computers.
Because it didn't even come out. So
so I know we had computers, but the stores were so limited. So the same thing that I would go and look at, or my mom would tell me to go look at, is the same stuff she would buy.
Right. So
it's like, why would I want that? And I'm 15 years old.
Right.
Like, where is it the stuff for me? So I actually started making clothes for myself at that point because I stopped shopping in the stores. And then it got to a point where it's like, okay, my peers were like, oh, where did you get that from? And I'd be like, oh, okay, well, maybe I might make my girlfriend this. I wasn't really doing it too extreme, but, I would make like one or two of something, and then I would move on from that. And then about 2013, I started doing custom orders. So people would come, they would, I'll do their fitting. They would say, oh, well, I want this or I want that. And we would just create that look. And then it went to me taking opportunities for vending. So I started doing pre-made. And then that opened up the door because I'm like, okay, now I need, credit card processing. But it was still kind of lightweight, but I was doing, that. And then from there, it was like, okay, well, now it's time for me to bump it up a notch. And last year is when I kind of finalized the name. Because it was Girl Interrupted before. Just trying to get into the branding piece. So I'm still in that stage, but like again, I can see every year something else change, and I'm grateful for that. Yeah.
Cool. So you started off sewing. You went from custom made to pre-made, and could you tell us maybe some of the struggles or obstacles, I'll call them, that may have come up as you were going through this process? Because like you said, I know things have changed, things have gone off. So what were some of the obstacles that you had to overcome during that process?
So I started in Philadelphia, and what I can say, one of the obstacles were attempting to find venues that were open to taking what I had to offer, especially with Philadelphia being a city of cliques. It's
not the city of brotherly love, the city that loves you back, the city of cliques.
Yeah, you have to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. So after we got past that, it was really just the concept of dealing with so many different type of personalities. And kind of just going along with the flow. Like when I meet someone, I connect with their vibe or go with that vibe, and then we sort it out that way. But there's a lot with dealing with people, and then I'm providing a service that people want to be satisfied. So then if someone's not satisfied, you got to deal with the customer service part of making them happy. So definitely those have been, the obstacles, in addition to, again, me starting, not knowing what to do, not really having a clear strategy. At this point, I think it's really important to have everything mapped out, like having your weekly goals, your monthly goals, your 6-month goal, your 12-month goal, and even, 3 to 5, what does that look like? So
perfect.
That's important. So you can make sure you're keeping track and you're following through with what you said you were going to do. Or pivoting, because pivoting is another one. There's a lot of pivoting going on.
Yes.
So you might have a plan, but okay, maybe it didn't work. Does that mean you stop? No, you create another strategy to still get you where you need to go. So yeah, pivoting is definitely a thing.
Awesome. No, I just had an interview with Devin. He's the founder of Kid Royal. It's another designer. Are you familiar with him?
Wait, what's
Kid Royal?
Is the
like T-shirts?
Oh,
yeah. I was
okay.
But he was talking about pivoting as well. So it's just interesting because as I'm doing a lot of these interviews, I hear a lot of the same things come up, which is cool because it's like everyone is reaching their goals by following these same types of content, right? So now that we've talked about some of the obstacles that may have come up, can you tell us about some of the things? Well, you kind of told us about your mentor and some of the things that she shared with you to kind of help you to progress. Mm-hmm. But were there some things talking about mindset? So I shared this with you, so I just wanted to share that. Mm-hmm. And probably everybody that's been watching these interviews probably has heard me say this in just about all of them, but talking about paradigms and the things that we think about and the things that we do and how that's all impacted by our environment, by our upbringing, the things that we've seen growing up, or just those things are constantly repeated and kind of ingrained in our brains, in our minds rather. And it impacts how we think, and it impacts the results that we get, right? Absolutely. So can you tell me about some of those mindsets that you had, or those paradigms that you had that were able to help you to be successful, right? Or something that you may have had to overcome to help you to get where you are?
Okay, the first thing that comes to mind with that is from a religious perspective. Growing up, I always remember the concept being not actually said this way, but the mm-hmm. concept is always thrown out. The poor, like God loves the poor. God loves those who don't really have much. That's who he, have the best connection to him because they don't have anything. So we aim for not going too high because it's like, oh, okay, it's okay to not really go too high because God doesn't really want you to be the highest. And it's like, okay, I don't know about that because if you can't, so who said that he doesn't want high? Mm-hmm. And if you're not high, how can you help yourself to then help other people, which is half of the purpose of why you're even here to begin with. Right. You don't have anything to offer yourself or anyone else. So It's like, how that can't be possibly true. Right. So I went back and forth with that because my mother's old school and she's like, well, you're going to be all right. God's going to provide, but you got to get up and move for him to provide for you the things that you're supposed to have. Right. So it's like if you never move because you're in a mindset that you want to get, praying is not enough. You pray and then you move. Right. So,
because God does want us to be prosperous.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that was a big one for a long time. I mean, I feel like even as African Americans, mm-hmm. We have this mindset. So aside from that, so being religious in African American mm-hmm. is that's one thing because we're in this mindset. And then the other piece is, okay, just being African American and having the conditions that we have over time, it's a whole nother concept. So put that together, we got a lot of problems that we need to sort out. And being beneath or not being able to provide and be self-sufficient for yourself is absolutely, I think, an abomination. Like, it should be unacceptable that you're relying on others to get what you need.
Yes.
So, yeah, no, I think that's wrong. Mm-hmm. I think that's absolutely wrong. So that is, maybe that's a 2 or 3 piecer mm-hmm. right there. Another paradigm. What inspires me is a lot of quotes. Like I read quotes, mm-hmm. And it gets you to thinking. And it has you come out of your element to be like, okay, I get it. There was one quote, and not to bring anybody down, but it's just for you to look at yourself. Mm-hmm. One of the quotes was, you're sitting around watching other people who can't even do it as good as you be successful, and you're literally just sitting and watching. How do you do that? Like, how do you not use the skills that you've been given and like, how do you sit and be audience rather than actual being the person on the stage to have other people look mm-hmm. and see and have a service for them? Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's ridiculous. Like, certain things is really ridiculous. So it's like, once you think about it, it kind of honestly, some stuff makes me feel a little retarded, mm-hmm. and I don't like to feel slow. So once I can process it, it's like, okay, no, it's no way. It's no way. It's no way. We can't sort this out. I mean, I can go on for days and days and days, but
so in just as an aside, I actually have a quote book, so I'm gonna share that with you guys too. But it's called Reflections. But because I find that same thing happening for me, like going through my day, and then I'm able to look in that quote book and see a quote that applies to my life or what's going on at that time, and then I'm like, you know what? Let me get it started.
Exactly.
Let me do this, and journaling helps
writing everything down.
Writing that stuff down, and I
mean, you taught me that.
Aww.
Yeah, McKenna actually was my supervisor. We worked together at the last company that I actually worked at. So yeah, she did help a lot as far as pushing and development and career growth. So I actually gotta applaud you a little bit because you were there for that.
and no, but that's helpful, right? And that because that helped me grow as well. And she was awesome. But yeah, so but I have one of those journals, those reflection journals coming out as well. So I just want to throw that plug in. Yep. But aside from that, getting back to a lot of the things that you said, because they are important, and I think that whether you're a woman, whether you're a man, whether you're African American, whether you're religious or not, this is impactful and it's important. And on the flip side, especially for Black men, especially for Black women, especially for African Americans. So I think what you said there was really heavy. So just taking one of those things, because when you talked about that religion piece, I can relate to that because I had that same struggle in that sense of, I had a friend and I talked to him about, we were just talking about like money, and it was like, oh yes, like some people are just scared of money, of getting money. And then especially when you talk about it from a religious perspective, it's like, oh, money is the root of all evil. But the love of money is the root of all evil, right? So it's not that you're not supposed to have the money. It's the love of the money. So it's just like a lot of pieces there. So I do understand what you're saying. And it's okay for us to be prosperous because like you said, once we are prosperous, as long as we keep our focus, we are able to help other people. Exactly. So I totally feel you on that. But let's talk about too, when you're talking about some of the paradigms that we have as African Americans and women or just men. How were you able to say, okay, this I recognize, because first, obviously, that's the first thing, to recognize, like, this is something that's going on. How were you able to now say, okay, how am I changing this? How were you able to change that and move forward and kind of have it benefit you, like change that mindset?
I think the first thing that comes to mind for me would be the concept that it's already being done. Like we're not doing anything that hasn't already been done before, so why can't I do it? Like, and I don't know if right now, because women businesses are booming, I don't know if everybody's, I don't know if everybody's not on, we might be on the same page, like, okay, I'm seeing it, so I can believe it, so therefore it can be true. So just that, I don't know if everyone's waking up to that sense, and also not being able to, having to go to someone else for the things that I need was more of the push than anything else. Like, why do I have to go to a large corporation in order for me to get what I need when, meantime, the large corporations don't care about me? So, like, small business, Black owned, those type of things actually are inspiring, and within my community, that's all I really see. So I tend to support that. So why not also be a part of that? You know, to kind of build on that network, because we need more Black owned everything. Like, we have no real empire. So I don't know if everyone's not waking. I think everyone's waking up in this period because we see that there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot that we don't currently have. And who have we been asking to actually get this permission to have these things? So, yeah, for me, that's been it. Like, I want to be self-sufficient. in addition to also having time for what's important to me. Self-sufficiency, I believe, is very, very important on every level. That's one of my main goals. Not it just being, oh, I'm successful and I have money. I want to be self-sufficient and then also be able to provide that and give that to my family. So
that's deep. I love that. No, I love that because I think that going back to your point, people have a victim mentality.
We do. We absolutely do.
And it's like, okay, I'm here because of whoever or whatever, and I'm just here. I'm not doing anything to change it.
And just complaining.
Okay. So.
And I actually noticed that a lot from the older generation. So they have the storyline of like, it has happened and what we want. But I see newer and younger people like, oh no, we're not doing this. Yeah, we're not doing it that way. But I think there's a reason why there's a progression in time. Like it can't stay the same. It's not going to stay the same. Right. And the thinking, even though in some instances it might be combative to the older generation, is much needed. Like they'll eventually see the value in it.
And I was talking to someone else and they were saying like, and I've had the same experience. It's like, when you gonna get a job? You know what I mean? Because it's kind of like you said, that it's a different whole mindset. Because back then it was like, and it's not even that far back then. I can't really say, and it's not to knock anybody that does like a 9 to 5 because it's a space for that as well. But it's like you have to get a job, you have to get a pension, you have to get whatever your 401k, whatever it is. But it's like it's okay to do your own thing too, right? There's space for that too.
Just getting out of what we consider the norm. Because how will we change the dynamics or the destiny of what things are supposed to look like if we keep doing the same things? And obviously they're not working. So.
Right. It's not working. So let's try something new.
Just try it.
And go from there. Right. Exactly. So what advice would you have for a young woman or a young man who wants to become an entrepreneur, or maybe they are an entrepreneur and it's a struggle for them and they may want to give up? Or what's some information that you could give or advice that you could give for someone who is in that space?
I would say people hear it a lot, so I think it goes over their head, but to not give up, because I think that, like, even though social media is a beautiful thing, social media also gives a false perception of what's really going on the back end. Like I've noticed, like before I took like a leap, like a full-time leap, there's a lot of conversation about all of the good, but nobody talks about the bad pieces of it, because there's bad stuff that goes, I mean, I'm not going to call it bad, but things that go wrong all the time, things that go out of plan all of the time. And you don't hear much of that unless that person is really just a genuine person and they actually speak about that, because it's an uncomfortable thing, because nobody wants to show where they're lacking or losing, but it's really a real concept. So, I mean, that's the first thing. Just get out of the idea or the perception that everything's supposed to be okay and right all the time. Like, it's impossible. Just like how people aren't that way, that's just not how life works. It's also not how business works. And if that is the case, like, honestly, I can't think of anybody that I've ever heard even speak who's billionaires, millionaires, trillionaires, whoever said it wasn't complicated or that it wasn't hard or that you're not going to be crying and sad. Because I know I've had moments like when I was going through the 2 business programs, doing school and working full-time to fund Hijabi Pop, I would crawl up in my bed, like in a fetal position, and I would literally just cry. Because I'm like, this is a lot. And like with my mentoring and the coaching, they're like, well, no, this is what it is. Like, if you're saying that this is what you want to do,
you gotta put in the work.
This is what it feels like. And this is why it feels so victorious once you get to the place you really want to be at. Then nobody else knew that you actually had to go through to get there. Right. It's a humbling experience. I mean, I can only imagine, because I'm nowhere near where I would like to be. But just to think back on some of the things that have transpired, even in these small strides, it's like, wow. I mean, I can kind of get the concept of how people can stand up on stage and kind of like try their best to break it down, even though you have no idea. You have no idea. I will also want to say, do it even when you're scared. You're gonna feel nervous. You're gonna feel uncomfortable. You're gonna feel icky. You're gonna feel sticky. But that means that you're in a good direction when you're uncomfortable. So just keep on going. Like, and don't be afraid of feeling like that, because that really is a part of this entrepreneurial life. So.
Perfect. That was perfect. Now, how can we get in touch with you? What do you have coming up? You have any fashion shows? Oh, you want to tell us about New York Fashion Week?
New York Fashion Week, I'm attempting to close in on a designer position. I'm going to be featuring 10 to 15 looks. And it is a part of the full New York Fashion Week. However, it is called Runways on Fire. So it'll be, some celebrity, some celebrity featuring celebrity designers. So I'm really excited to be a part of the show.
Nice.
It's a really big deal. I recently also did a fashion show in Atlanta for a CLF conference. It's an Islamic conference called Community Life Forward. And it was actually Black sponsored. So that was a big deal as well. I also recently pitched for a pitch competition called, everyone knows about the concept of Shark Tank, but it was the Islamic version, so they called it Sugar Tank, which means thankful or grateful or to give. So that was also a really great experience. Nice. Every experience is a beautiful one, right? So how can you reach me? So I can actually be reached by email at hijabipop@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and also on YouTube under Hijabi Pop, HIJABIPOP. I also have a business line if you're interested in speaking or reaching out. It's 267-551-1857.
Awesome. Thank you so much for
taking
the time.
Thank you so much, McKenna, for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.